It's above 10, yeah, above 10, 15, 18, and even you can get everything. You can get the whole 20 marks, which will be a very big boost to your pass rate, because the others still will be able to manage and do. So we said section 1 is 20, section 2 is 60, and the section 3 you just need to do one question for 20 marks. So without taking much time, so you shall just start with question 1. And the question was how fast data is processed and accessed is represented by which of the following V's of big data. Yeah, so remember how fast, here we are talking about the speed. Yeah, we are talking about the speed, and for the speed, remember we said is velocity. When we are talking about the speed, here we talked about the velocity. Yeah, talked about the velocity. And so validity is just about the validity even is not there under the 5 V's. Yeah, virality, so veracity, that one we talked about it, the veracity. And remember when we talk about the 5 V's, just a reminder, we had the volume, yeah, the size, we had velocity, yeah, the speed. Variety was about the range, and the other one was the veracity, the accuracy, veracity about the accuracy and reliability, and value about the knowledge and what we are getting under the business insight. So the one that talks about the speed is the velocity. So question 2, data modeling is a process that helps one to understand the structures, form, and relationship of information. It requires one to first think of the model, then identify the model details, and then how the model will be implemented. Which of the following is the correct name of data model implementation? Data model implementation. Remember we looked at 3 data model. Yeah, we looked at the conceptual, we looked at the logical, and we look at the physical. Yeah, the 3 of them. And remember for the conceptual, we said this is where we are just coming up with the relationships. Yeah, the way the data will be related to one another, and it is for the non-technical. Logical now is for the technical. We are now coming up with the way we are going into details under the logical over how the database will be formed, all those details of the relationship, what will come to what, all that we were looking it under the logical. But the physical was now about the physical the actual implementation and how we shall be able to store and how we shall be able to access. Yeah, so the implementation was happening under the physical. It was happening under the physical because that's where we were looking at how we shall be able to store and how we shall be able to access, because accessibility and the storage now, that one we are implementing our database. We'll be able to implement our data model. So the question 2, so the answer should be C, under the physical stage. Under the physical stage, that is where the model will be implemented. Remember the first one, the conceptual, is just coming up, and we said is for the non-technical. The logical now, they are able to go ahead now, and it creates a room for the creation now of the physical database, but the implementation will occur under the physical. So rational is not there. There are only these 3 processes under the data modeling: the conceptual, the logical, and the physical. Then number 3, the following activities are included in the cross-industry standard process for data mining. Yeah, data preparation, data understanding, data deployment, business understanding, data evaluation, and data modeling. So which of the following is a proper sequence of these activities? So the sequence within which the cross-industry standard process for data mining follows. Yeah, the first thing we said, whenever we are looking at the cross-industry, the first thing we do understand the business understanding. So the answer that starts with 4, the business understanding, that was the first thing. We understand the business, the core objective, the goals, everything about or concerning the business is what we are first understanding. Then after we understand the business, we understand the data. Yeah, what type of data do we need? What are the sources of this data that we require? That is under data understanding. Do we need structured data? Do we need unstructured? Do we need complete? But here now is the sources. Yeah, whether it is structured or it's unstructured under the data understanding. And after we have understood our data, we shall prepare data preparation. And under the data preparation is where we are eliminating the duplicates, we are eliminating the errors under data preparation. Yeah, if the data, we are putting the data into standard form depending on the model that we are using. If our model requires a structured data, that one we shall do it under the data preparation. And after we have prepared the data, now we are ready to model. We go to number 6, data modeling. We shall be able now to model the data. And under data modeling is where we said we are coming up with different models. Different models, so that we can be able to choose the best under the different models under data modeling. And after we have come up with the different models, we shall select the best model, and that best model that we shall select, we shall do the evaluation. We shall evaluate that model to make sure that it works according to what we had planned. And we said we can use the test data in order to test that particular model whether it is working as according to the way it's supposed to be working. And after we have evaluated our model, we just now deploy the data. We deploy the data for usage now. Deploy the data deployment now, because if the model is now usable and the model fits what we really needed, we shall deploy the data. That means the correct order will be 4, business understanding; 2, understanding the data; 1, data preparation; 6, modeling; 5, evaluation; and 3. So your answer will be D. Your answer will be D. Then the next one, number 4, which of the following is not an activity in the modeling stage in the cross-industry standard process for data mining? So which one is not an activity in the modeling stage? An activity in the modeling stage. So remember, when you talk about the modeling now and the data modeling is whereby we are coming up with a model. And that's why we are first selecting, we are preparing what we call the prototypes. Different prototypes, so that we shall select the best from those different prototypes. And therefore in the modeling stage, we shall be able to build the prototypes, we shall be able to select the best, and we shall be able to design. So ABC will happen in the modeling stage, because we are building the prototypes, different prototypes, testing them. The best of it is what we shall select. Under building, we shall have to design, because you cannot have different prototypes that are of the same design, so they have different designs. So designing will be happening in the modeling stage, but evaluation will not. According to what we have looked under question number 3, evaluation comes after modeling. After already we have modeled and we have selected the best, that is when evaluation occurs. So evaluation is not under the modeling, because we shall evaluate now the model that already we have chosen. So D is not part of activity that happens in the modeling stage. Then number 5, for data visualization. Remember, visualization we said is where we use the charts in order to see or to assist in aiding people understanding the data and doing analysis in a faster manner and be able to grasp the attention of the users, whereby we are using the charts for data visualization. We use the dashboard for data visualization. So a bar chart will likely to be classified as what? When we are using the bar chart, is it a distribution? Is it a relationship? Is it a comparison? Is it a composition? So remember, most of the time when we are dealing with bar charts, like we are looking at the performance, the growth of profit from year 1 to year 5. So that means we are doing the comparisons from year 1, year 2, year 3 to see the growth, the trends that are happening, the growth in profit or the growth in revenue or the growth in what. So most of the time when we are using the bar chart, we are using it for comparison. So for the distribution, most of the time we talk about like the line graphs, to show the distribution of items vis-a-vis the time. The time, that is the distribution. A relationship is between one or more element. And under the relationship, later on we shall look at, I think there is a question that talks about the bubble, the bubble charts or bubble cycles, when we are showing the relationship. Composition of something, if it is a composition, most of the time composition pie charts can act under the composition, to show the composition of an element. It's composed of what and what. So composition, most of the time pie charts can be able to be used to show the composition, but when they talk about the pie chart, is the comparison. Yeah, for comparison purposes, Then the next one, number 6, a data analyst will like to present data in form of a distribution. He will likely to use the following, except when you're talking about the distribution, except what? Which one will not be used? So remember question 5 and question number 6, they were testing under the data visualization. So line chart, histogram, scatter graph. So remember, and pie chart. Pie chart, you said, is when you're talking about the composition. Yeah, the composition of something, pie chart can easily be used under the composition. But when you're talking about the distribution, pie chart cannot be used to show the distribution of items. Yeah, the distribution of items. Remember, distribution is about the time. Yeah, whether we are having time or we are having any other element. Line chart can be able to be used. Histogram, remember there's a difference between a histogram and a bar chart. Yeah, histogram we normally say is a two-dimensional. It is a two-dimensional, and from the histogram we normally derive the polygon, frequency polygon, and we can still be able to derive the frequency curve. They normally have the frequency, the movement of items from one period still to another period. So the first three, line chart, the histogram, and scatter graph, yeah, these are frequency charts. Normally call them frequency charts. So these, they are normally used under the distribution. By pie chart is not. Pie chart, you have said, most of the time is under the comparison. Whenever you are not comparison but the composition, whenever we are using the composition, most of the time we use the pie chart. But the first three, they will be used under the distribution. So that number 6, the answer will be D. Number 7, data ethics are the norms of behavior that promote appropriate judgment and accountability when acquiring, managing, or using data, with the goals of protecting civil liberties, minimizing risk to individuals and society, and maximizing the public good. All the following promote data ethics, except, so do we deal with complying with the law, promoting transparency, respecting privacy and confidentiality, and fairness. Remember, ethics is doing what is right. Yeah, the right and wrong, doing what is right and wrong, and it is from individual's perspective. Yeah, from individual's perspective, because when you talk about ethics, is knowing what is right and knowing what is wrong. And most of the time for the ethics, it is from a person's perspective. It's not normally regulated by law. Yeah, and that's why we normally talk about the fundamental principles of ethics. Yeah, fundamental principles of ethics that people ought to observe each and every time in their profession. And now when you talk about the data ethics, is whenever we are dealing with the data, what are the norms that we are supposed to follow? Yeah, what are the norms that will promote appropriate judgment and accountability whenever we are managing or whenever we are acquiring and whenever we are using the data? So whenever we are dealing with ethics, we need transparency. We need to respect privacy and confidentiality of the data that we have acquired. Yeah, remember, confidentiality and privacy cuts through under ethics, the principles of confidentiality. And even we need to be fair whenever we are dealing with the data. Fairness. Yeah, fairness is whereby we talk about the objectivity principle. Yeah, we are not showing any bias, no biasness whenever we are dealing with the data. That means the one that is not, all the following promote data ethics. Complying with the law, that one does not promote data ethics. So you may be complying with the law, but still you are not transparent. You may be complying with the law, but still you are not confidential, or you are not having the privacy, because most of the time when you're talking about law, we need now to either use that particular information as evidence in a particular place. So law, that one is already things that are already structured. But when you talk about ethics, they are unstructured because they are coming from a person's perspective. And that's why we are saying we are using to promote appropriate judgments. Yeah, people have different judgment, but here we are talking about appropriate judgments. Appropriate judgments. Yeah, so the one that does not promote ethics here is law. And that's why we normally have a distinction between law and morality, or law and ethics. The two of them, they are different, they are not the same. So whenever we are complying with the law, that one it's not promoting ethics. Ethics is totally different from law. Law, there are things that you're supposed to comply with. Yeah, there are set standards that you're supposed to comply with. But you normally say ethics is from an individual perspective, and that's why we are saying individual will have different judgments. Degrees of judgment will be different. But here we are looking at where we shall minimize risk to individuals and maximizing public good. So in that case, complying with law does not promote data ethics, but the others, the transparency will promote, privacy and fairness, that one will promote. Number 8, which of the following is not a concept of data integrity? Yeah, data integrity. Yeah, integrity of data still is like ethics, but here now we are looking at the integrity of data. So does it involve data availability? Does it involve data currency? Does it involve data accuracy? Or does it involve data validity? Does it involve data validity? So when we talk about the data integrity, it means that the data is accurate. It means that the data is accurate. Yeah, the process to ensure that accuracy, the data is accurate, and the data integrity, the data is complete, the data is consistent, and it is valid. It is validity. We talk about validity. That data that we are dealing with is valid. It can be used to make some decisions. So accuracy, consistency, validity, all those they are under what we call data integrity. And still in this case now, when you talk about the accuracy, when you talk about the consistency, when you talk about validity, and when you talk about completeness, in this case now it will involve the data currency is about accuracy. Yeah, when you dig deep, data currency still is about the accuracy. Data accuracy still, that is accurate, and data is valid. But availability, before we talk about data integrity, then data must be available, because now availability is not a concept of integrity, because for us first to test about the integrity, the data must be available. So data availability comes first. It is not under data integrity, because that data that is available, now we shall evaluate the integrity. That data, is it accurate? That data, is it valid? That data, is it complete? So all those now we shall be testing after the data is available. So the first step is availability of data before we can be able to go to data integrity. So data availability is not a concept of data integrity. The two of them are different, they are in different stages. The first stage is availability, the data that is we have prepared, the data that already we have understood, and we have made it available, so that now we can be able to test that data whether it meets. So data availability, then it's not a concept of data integrity, but the rest, they are concept of data integrity. Then the other question 9, where we are talking about, with a high volume of data available for business, collecting meaningful data is a big challenge, and to enable handling large volumes of data, data collection tools are critical. Which of the following will likely be a data collection software? Yeah, data collection software. Yeah, data collection software that you can be able to use to collect the data. So do you use Excel as a data collection software? Do you use Python? Do you use R? Or do you use Zoho? So you'll find that Excel, most of the time we are not using it as a software for collecting data, but sometimes we are using it as just for analysis. Yeah, analyzing some data, analyzing the data, but not using it as a collection software. Python is a program. Yeah, that is a programming language for Python, coming up with a program that will be used. So the program is for an analysis. Again, you can come up with a program to analyze the data. R still is used by data scientists, yeah, to do or to deal with analysis. R still is for analysis. But when you look at Zoho, yeah, I don't know how many of you have used Zoho. Yeah, Zoho is accounting. It's an accounting software. Yeah, it's an accounting software, the likes of QuickBooks, the like of Pastel, and you'll find that the QuickBooks is for collecting the data. Yeah, all the data will be aggregated under QuickBooks, the daily transactions that are happening. So we shall use that to collect data, so that if we need to extract a financial position we need to extract a trial balance. Already the data has been collected, yeah, on a daily basis. So the software that we use to collect data in this case is Zoho, because it is an accounting software and it will be used on a daily. It's a transactional software that is recording data on a daily basis. So the data for the month, the data for the year, all of them will be collected under one particular place. But the others, Excel, most of the time we don't use it to collect the data, yeah, but just to record the transactions, either to record a daily transaction, getting their sum, but not that much. Remember, these other softwares like Zoho, the QuickBooks, they are able to do some extra thing to do with extraction of reports and so on. But Excel, will find that extracting some reports, unless it is programmed in a certain way, it may be hard to extract those particular reports in a manner that will be useful for the user. So here we talk about the Zoho as data collecting software. Then we go to question number 10. Question number 10 talks about a data scientist, data analyst makes the following comments about functions in Excel. Number 1, to determine the variance of a list of 10 numbers, we use variance.p A1 to A10. To determine the standard deviation of 10 numbers, we use variance.p A1 to A10. And to determine variance of a list of 10 numbers, all of them they are list of 10 numbers, we use variance.s A1 to A10, the range. Yeah, this is the range that we are having. So which one of the following statement is true? So among the three statements, which one is true? Which one is true? So that is our question, to determine the statement that is true. You'll find that whenever we are talking about variance, first, when you see variance.p, p means is a population. P is for population variance, and S is for the sample. Yeah, variance.s, this is a sample, variance for the sample, variance for the population. So number 2 automatically is wrong, because we are not calculating standard deviation using variance. So standard deviation we shall use STDEV. Yeah, it starts with standard, then STEDEV, standard deviation. But here remember we are looking at a list of 10 numbers. So when you look at 10 numbers, it's not a conclusive list, because when you talk about P is a population, yeah, the entire population of numbers, yeah, variance over the entire. If we know the entire population, then that's the time we use the P. But because we're just dealing with a list of 10 numbers, in this case we don't know how many numbers are there. If we knew how many numbers are there, is this list the entire number or is it just a sample? So the assumption will be the number, because it's just but a list of 10 numbers, is just but a sample. It is not the entire population, because the entire population you can talk about like counting numbers, which we have. You cannot be able to reach the end of the counting numbers unless now the examiner tells you the population, how many are they. Yeah, like if you are calculating the variance of the Kenyan population, which is 50 plus million, that one now we shall use variance.p. But here now the range is only for 10 numbers. If the range is only for 10 numbers, then we shall use only the variance for the sample. 10 numbers, we shall just take them as a sample, because we don't know the entire population is how many population or how many numbers do we have. So the statement that is true is only number 3. Yeah, only statement number 3 is the one that is true. So the others are not. Number 2 is definitely wrong. Number 1, if we knew there are only 10 numbers, that is the entire population, then number 1 will have been correct. But in this case, they are just 10, a list of 10. So we don't know whether it is entire, because we don't know the end number. Then we are using just sample. We are assuming that is a sample of the numbers that we may be having. Then number 11 is a repetition of what already we have covered up there. So the following are the various phases of data models. You can either be dealing with the physical model, the logical, or the conceptual. Which of the following represents the correct order of the models? The correct order of the model. Remember the model, we said we start with the conceptual. The conceptual is a basic, where we are defining the relationships between different entities, defining the entities. Everything is happening under the conceptual. And we said conceptual is for the non-technical staff. For the non-technical staff, just giving them a high ranking view of how the system will be under the conceptual. The second step we said is the logical. Yeah, this one now is where we are going into detail now. What will be the components of the entities? What will be the components of these relationships? How will they be communicating to one another? And it's normally used by database administrators under the logical, so that they can be able to come up with a physical database. To come up with a physical database, that was under the logical. The physical, we said, is whereby now we are coming up, we are asking ourselves, it's still under the sophisticated method, asking ourselves, how shall we be able to store this particular database, and how shall we be able to access the storage and the accessibility? Which method shall we be able to access? Storage, do we store it in the cloud? Do we store it in the hard disk? Where do we store this particular database, and how shall we be able to access this particular database? How do we access this particular database? So that one was under the physical. So the correct order, we start with conceptual, the one with the 3, followed by logical, number 2, followed by physical. So it was just inverted. Yeah, so 3, 2, 1. So the correct answer in that case was D, the conceptual, the logical, and the physical. Then number 12, which one of the following techniques is the least effective in obtaining data for easy storage and analysis? So the least effective, the keyword here is the least. Yeah, the least. Which of the following technique is the least effective? They are not badly off, they can still be used to obtain data, but whenever we are looking at data that we are storing and data that we are analyzing, so we are looking now which one is the least. Do we go with interviews, self-administered email, questionnaire, online questionnaire such as on Google form, or recorded interviews? So remember, here we have A and D, which are almost the same. Let us analyze B and C. Self-administered email questionnaire. I believe maybe you have gotten emails from either Google or from any other part or any other body or company that needs you to answer, because self-email administered questionnaire, these are questionnaires that are sent to individuals. A company can be sending questionnaires to individual about maybe a product they want to launch, about what, so that you can fill that questionnaire and you can send it back. Remember, now this one, it is easy to store because already it is stored in the email, and it is easy to analyze because all those you can have a software that can be able to analyze all those questionnaires because already they are online. Then you can have the one for Google Drive or Google Forms. Yeah, majority of people nowadays they prefer to use these and just share the link, people to open the link, fill the information that they need there, and then it is easy to analyze this, and it is easy to store because already that one is in the Google. You can store it in the Google Drive because it is easy. Recorded interviews and interviews now, so either among these. So remember, when you look at the recorded interviews, already you are recording, either live, you're recording using camera, or you're recording using recorders. Either it's only the voice, like for the radios, whereby they do record using the voice, they don't have maybe sometimes the visual, the videos, they're only recording the interviews. So the voice can be analyzed later, you can replay later and be able to get the points, the key points that particular interviewee was giving. Those points you can be able to analyze them later. And recorded interviews are easy to store because either they were recorded the video or the audio version, audio or both, because it has audio and visual. You can be able to record that and you can easily analyze, because it is if it is like a movie, you can easily follow and analyze the point later on. But when you conduct oral interviews without recording, remember, now this one, it will be very hard to analyze. You may not be able even to remember what that particular individual said, and that's why nowadays even people are using their phones to record whatever people are saying. They just use the phone to record, because if it is interviews that you are conducting and you are not recording, or you don't have forms that you are marking, or you are doing what, it will be least effective to store that particular data. Because even if you are using forms, like when you look at the interviews that people attend, job interviews, they are just oral interviews, but they normally have hard copies, and by the end of the day you may follow that keeping those hard copies, sometimes it may be difficult to go through all of them and to analyze. And that's why you'll find that for interviews, they don't conduct interviews for many people. because of the process of analyzing all those people that maybe they were interviewed. So it is not that it is not effective, but it is least effective. So the answer in our case will be interviews, specifically because of storage, and because of analysis later on, because of the way we shall be able to analyze. So that one is least. It is not that it is not effective, but it will be least effective. Number 13, according to cross-industry standard process for data mining, data preparation involves, you can remember the process. Here now we are looking at just data preparation. Is it obtaining data and information from different source, processes, and storing for future reference, fixing or removing incorrect, corrupted, incorrectly formatted data and information, collecting data and information about business requirement from stakeholders and end users, creating a visual representation of either the whole information system or part of it to communicate connections between data point and structure. Remember, here now we are talking about creating visual. So this is data visualization if you are using the elimination method. So D cannot be the answer because that one is under data visualization. Here we just need data preparation. And remember, why are we preparing the data? We are preparing the data in order to use it in the model. The next step from data preparation is modeling. Modeling that particular data. And we said under data preparation is where we are removing the inconsistency, any data that is not correct, any data that is incomplete, any data that is not in the correct format. We are formatting the data so that either they are structured or they are ready to be used into the model. So in the data preparation is where we are fixing or removing incorrect, corrupted, incorrectly formatted data and information. All that will be happening under the data preparation, stage. Under the data preparation stage. So our answer in this case is that part. And remember, we looked at it. We looked at it under the stages, the life cycle. If you can remember, under the life cycle, I think that is where we were looking at that particular element. Question 14. Question 14. So the following statements are associated with big data. They are associated with big data. Number 1, big data is a collection of data that is huge in volume, yet growing exponentially with time. Big data that can be stored, accessed, and processed in form of fixed format is termed as structured data. Big data that is heterogeneous and contains a combination of simple text files and images is semi-structured. So remember, in this case now, which of the following choices is correct? Do you go with statement 1 and 2 that are correct, statement 1 and 3, or statement 2 and 3 that are correct, or all of them are correct? So it is either of them that are correct. So in this case, you will find that when you talk about big data is heterogeneous, homogeneous is the data that is uniform. Homogeneous is data that is uniform. So big data that is heterogeneous and contains a combination of simple text files and images is semi-structured. So this one is not semi-structured at all because we are having text and images. Yes, that the first part for heterogeneous is okay, but the last part for semi-structured is not. So semi-structured means half is structured, the other half is not structured. Structured means that data is in a certain order that is required by the system in order for it to be analyzed. So this one is wrong when we talk about it is semi-structured. But whenever we are combining, that one is not homogeneous because the items are not the same, so it is heterogeneous. The first part is correct, the last part is wrong. So big data can be stored. Question number 14. And already we have read and I have explained that for the big data, so it's not, it is heterogeneous when it is a combination of simple and the text and the images, but it is not semi-structured. But the second one, big data, it can be stored, accessed, processed in form of fixed format. It is termed as structured. That one is structured when the format or the form is fixed, that is structured. And again, big data is a collection of data that is huge in volume, yet growing exponentially with time. So the one that are correct in this case is 1 and 2. 3 is wrong. 3 is wrong. So number A should be our correct statement, that A, 1 and 2, the big data is huge in volume and it will grow. And again, the one that is in fixed format, that one is structured. That one is structured. So number 15, number 15. So which one of the following is not the correct definition of one of the V's of the big data? Yeah, it's not the correct definition. So the first one is velocity. Yeah, velocity is the speed. We have seen that under the question number 1. Velocity is the speed. Then the value, usefulness of the information obtained from analyzing big data. That one is okay. Yeah, the usefulness, the knowledge that we gain, the insights that we gain, that is the value. Then veracity. Yeah, veracity is multi-factor and structured and dynamic nature of the big data. Yeah, this one is wrong. Yeah, veracity, it doesn't mean that. Yeah, volume is the size of the big data. That one is okay. But for veracity, I had read and it is under the fourth one. Yeah, veracity is about the accuracy and reliability and trustworthiness of the data. When you talk about the veracity, the accuracy and reliability, yeah, and trustworthiness of that data, how much or how far can we be able to trust that particular data? That is the veracity. But it's not about the multi-factor and structured and dynamic nature of big data. So this one is not correct. It's not correct. Number 16, the 16th, the following are different categories of data analytics. So we have diagnostic, we have predictive, we have descriptive, and we have prescriptive. Yeah, so you can remember these ones. We had covered them. Yeah, we covered 3. We covered predictive, we covered descriptive, and we covered prescriptive. Yeah, the 3 of them. And we're under the 3 that we had already covered. We said the first one we use is the descriptive. Yeah, the first one was the descriptive, where descriptive we are looking at the past and the present, what has happened in the past and what has happened today. That one was the descriptive. And we said, so after we are done with the descriptive, we have known what has happened or where we have come from and where we are today. Then we can be able to use that information to predict the future. Predictive, yeah, to know where we are going and how we shall be able to achieve what we want to achieve in future. And after we are done with the predictive, we can now be able to prescribe the options. Yeah, remember the predictive, we can predict different options of the scenarios. Under the scenarios, predictive is under the scenario, different scenario, and we can prescribe the best, yeah, the best route of what will be able to happen. So that now in this case, when now we introduce the diagnostic, so the correct order now should be, of which in this case I didn't see that order, because we are supposed to start with the descriptive, which is a number 3. We describe what has happened in the past. Then we do the diagnostic. After the predictive, descriptive is diagnostic. We diagnose where we are and what we have, where we have come from, so that now we can be able to know what have we really achieved, or what have made us not to achieve what we wanted to achieve. Yeah, which are the failures, or what have contributed for us to fail and not achieve what we were able, or what we are planning to achieve. So descriptive, then we diagnose. And after having the diagnostic, then we are supposed to do the predictive. So predictive should come before the prescriptive. Yeah, so but when you look at this one, the answer A, they are starting with the descriptive, they go to diagnostic, of which that one is correct. Here they are interchanging. They are starting with 4, then 2, of which you cannot deal with prescriptive before predictive. So in this question, the correct answer is A, when they interchange 4 and 2. Therefore, in this question, the answers that were there were wrong, ideally, because A was correct half, 3, 1, then it's supposed to be 3, 1, 2, 4. Because after we have done the descriptive, we go to diagnostic. After diagnostic, we deal with the predictive. Then after already we have predicted, we shall give now the prescriptive. Because under the predictive is where we are talking about the what? The scenarios, coming up with the different scenarios and now writing the prescription. that we are giving them an advice. This is the best route that you can select so that you can be able to maximize. So you cannot do, or you cannot start with a prescriptive, then you deal with predictive. Yeah, then you deal with that. So in this case, this question, I'll just leave it that open because A is not the clear answer. Yeah, A is not the clear answer. It's not the clear answer.
What of D, mwalimu?
Yeah, so remember D, they are starting with the diagonistic. So they diagonalize. Then number 3, they deal with the descriptive. Then number 2, they deal with the predictive. Then number 4, they deal with the prescriptive. Yeah, of which D still is almost there, but now you cannot diagonalize something that already you have not described, because descriptive should come first before diagnostic. Descriptive, remember we said we are looking at the past and the present, where we are and where we have come from, because when you talk about the descriptive, we normally look at what has happened. Yeah, what has happened. Then when you talk about diagnostic, we look at why did it occur or why did it happen. That's why we are now diagonizing that. Yeah, what has happened in the past or what is happening, and why did it happen that way. So you cannot start with the diagnostic, of which now still A and D argument still can be that still this one can start with the diagnostic, then you do the descriptive, but the key is to start with the descriptive, because when you look at the prescriptive, we normally look at what is the best course of option or the best course of action. When you look at the predictive, we look at what is likely to happen in the future. This one, what is likely to happen in the future. Then we prescribe the best course of action. So A and D, so those one are not clear. They are not outright answers. Yeah, because this one they are interchanging, and this one. But when you look at the answers that the examiner had given, he had given answer of A, of which A was interchanging. That's what I'm saying. A or D, they are not outright answers. Yeah, so just leave that one out, because either way, A, they gave free mark for A, but A was not the correct answer, because it was supposed to be the out. We were to start with 2, then to go with 4. This, like this one, yeah, D, but D now the part that is wrong is where we are starting with the diagnostic instead of starting. If D was starting with 3, 1, then 2, 4, then it will be the outright answer without any argument. Okay. Then number 17. Number 17, David Mongare is the audit manager of Mukaguzi Auditors. He is carrying out analytical review at 2 stages, at the planning and at substantive testing. Which type of analytics relates to the 2 stages? Number A, predictive analysis for planning and diagnostic analysis for substantive testing. Then number B, diagnostic analysis for the planning and predictive analysis for substantive. Or number C, descriptive analysis for planning and diagnostic analysis for substantive. Or that is C. Number D, we deal with the predictive analysis for planning and the descriptive analysis for substantive. So which one now among the 2 stages, because here we are carrying out the analytical review. So which one will be the best under the planning and under the substantive? Remember, analytical, that one now is a question that is covering the audit. It's under the audit. Yeah, when we are dealing with planning, because planning is the first one that comes first. We do the plan, yeah, so that you can be able now to deal with the other. Substantive testing is whereby we deal with the testing of the procedures. Yeah, testing of the procedures, and you'll find that when you talk about the test of these particular procedures, so do we start, remember predictive, we have said that this one we are predicting what will happen in the future, and most of the time whenever you are dealing with the plan is not for today. Yeah, or planning is not for the past. Plan is normally futuristic. Plan is normally futuristic. So we do plan for things that are yet to occur. But things like when you talk about a budget is normally a type of plan, and budget is not in the past, is normally in the future. So that means in the planning we shall have the predictive, because we are predicting the future. So the answer that has predictive under the planning, and there are two, A and D. A and D, we have predictive analysis at the planning and predictive analysis for the planning. So B and C already we are eliminating them because predictive will happen under the planning, because remember predictive we are predicting the future. Then when you look at substantive testing now, and we are saying substantive testing, we are testing the procedures that have already occurred. Procedures that have already occurred. And you will find that when you talk about substantive, is whereby the auditor is gathering evidence about either material misstatement in the client's account records or any other records under the substantive, whether the procedures or we are looking at the material misstatement that have already occurred. And when we are talking about the material misstatements, these are something that already have occurred. It's not something that will occur. It is something that have occurred in the past, and therefore we have said when we are looking at the past, where we have come from, that is the descriptive analysis. Because that one is covering what has happened and what is happening, because the material misstatement in the client account records or other data, we are gathering the data under the substantive testing. We are gathering the data so that we can be able to have samples that we can be able to verify whether there is any material misstatement in the client's account. That data that we are gathering, it's not data that has been prepared today. Majority of the data that we are gathering is data that has been prepared in the past, and that's why the correct answer under question number 17 will be D, the predictive for the future under the planning, and the descriptive for the substantive. Because substantive, we are testing something that already have occurred. We are testing for material misstatement, we are testing for material errors. That is something that has occurred, because audit, we are carrying audit after already something has occurred, and that's why here D will be the correct answer. And when you look at A, we had said the two of them, but A, we are looking at diagnostic. Diagnostic, so we are not diagonizing, because already diagonizing, we are saying that we are looking at why did it happen. For diagnosis, why did it happen? Here we are not asking ourselves why it did happen, but we are describing what already happened. There was this material misstatement under the substantive testing, because if there was a material misstatement that are pervasive, it may lead to disqualification or to nullification of that particular report. It's just but descriptive in that manner. So planning, predictive, and substantive, descriptive. So remaining with the three question 18, 19, and 20 in this paper. So question 18, which of the following is not a strategy that the data analyst will use in handling missing data to enable data analysis? So which one is not a strategy? So drop observation that have missing values, estimate the missing value using other observation, then assigning an integer that will enable the values to be processed as null values, or highlighting the observation with a tag. So which one is not? Which one is not a strategy that will be used? So remember, when we drop the observation, this one can be a strategy because we are handling missing data. And when we drop observations that have missing value, it means they will not be included in our analysis, and therefore still we can be able to analyze. Remember, like assuming we are using the regression, when we are using the regression, it's not a must to have all the data. If we have some data that are missing, we can drop them and still be able to work with the data that is available and still be able to get our values and predict the other values that we did not have. Estimate the missing value using other observation. Still you can estimate, like regression can be able to be used as an estimate of those values. Then assign an integer that will enable the values to be processed as null values. Still that one you can. You can. so that it will bring null. For those values that are missing, all of them, it will be nullified, and when they are null, then they will not be counted whenever you are dealing with the data analysis. But when you are highlighting the observation using a tag, this one is not, because that information still will be there. Remember, the tag is like a comment. You are just putting the comment, but the information still will be used, and most of the time whenever the information will be used, the analysis that we shall get will not be the correct, because we used all the data plus the data that were missing plus the data that were incomplete. So highlighting, remember, under Excel is whereby you just put a comment under that particular data. You can put a comment, this tag, that the data is not complete, but the analysis will not capture that comment, because the comment is just by the comment, but the cell is still active. So it will still be able to give the results, and it will still be able to be counted whenever we are dealing with the analysis. So highlighting the data, that one will not be the strategy for handling missing data or handling the incomplete data in this case. 19, you are given the following categories of data visualization. Whether we are dealing with composition, whether we are dealing with distribution, whether we are dealing with comparison, or whether we are dealing with relationship, or whether we are dealing with the trends. So each one of the following choices represents the order from simple to complex. Complex in terms of analyzing data for visualization. So when you're analyzing data for visualization, which one will you be able to start with? From the ones that are simple to the ones that are complex, So do we start with the composition? Do we go with the distribution, the comparison, the relationship, or the trends? Remember, composition, we said most of the time whenever we are using a pie chart can be used to derive the composition of items or the composition of a certain distribution. Different areas, different angles under the composition. Distribution is the way the data is distributed. Most of the time we are looking at two or more under the distribution. Comparing, again, you cannot compare one item, and that's why we used the bar chart for comparison. Relationship is between two or more variables. The relationship between two or more variables. It can either be two or it can either be more. Comparison, still it can either be one, comparison two or more, but most of the time you're comparing two and above. So for the trends, trends is just showing the movement from one period to another, that is where we look at the trend. The trends is like the movement of data, how the data has been changing, that is where the trends comes in. So the order from the simplest to the one that is complex. So composition is the one that is normally the simplest. The composition, where we are starting with the composition, the pie charts, those ones, they are easy to come up with, followed by the trends, because trend, it can either be for an item. It's not a must for you to have several comparison under the trends. Then we go to number 4, the relationship. Remember, relationship, you have said relationship can either be two items or more. But most of the time relationship, we can restrict ourselves to 2 or sometimes to more than 2 under the relationship. But comparison, you can compare many, different years for comparison. That's why we are saying we are using the bar, and the bar chart can be used to compare. Remember, we have even the multiple bar charts whereby it can have different categories of elements that are being compared under one particular year. So comparison is more complex compared to relationship. Then we go to the last one. The last one is the distributions. The distribution, where we are talking about the line graphs, the histograms. So those one now becomes more the scatter graphs. Those ones falls under the distribution, which are the most complex. Remember the question that we did where we are showing a diagram that we are using even the R or the equation for the line. It was a line graph for several years. So that one now it can become complex for the distribution. So the order, you're starting with the composition, number 1, the trend, then number 4, the relationship, number 3 the composition, and number 2 which is the distribution, in that manner, just a minute so that I don't confuse that. So it should not be that way. Yeah, so composition, distribution, comparison, then relationship, then trend, then it should be the opposite of what I have said. Yeah, because between composition and the trend, the trend is easier one because a trend can either be for one element that we are dealing with. Remember, the composition, like the one that you are saying for the pie chart, the 360 degrees can be divided for several items. Yeah, sorry for that. So the answer shall start with this one. Yeah, so we shall start with this one. For the one that starts with the trend, then comparison, then distribution. So this one now is a complete opposite of what we had here. Yeah, because it should start with the composition, the trend, number 3 the comparison, number 2 the distribution, number 4 the relationship, and the composition. And that's why you have said for the composition it is becoming complex for the pie chart, and that's why most of the time the pie chart is not used. Yeah, because whenever you are showing the pie chart, it can become too much cluttered, having a lot of information. That's why we are saying it may be so much complex, and it's not only the pie chart that is used. I will try to share that maybe by tomorrow. Yeah, so a summary of these particular categories. Yeah, summary of these categories under data visualization, and when do we use which particular category, when do we use composition, when do we use distribution, comparison, relationship, and trend, which particular charts are in each particular category, so that we can be able to understand it more. Yeah, I will remember that to share more detailed on that, but the order should be 5, 3, 2, 4, and 1, the order for that. But I will share more detail on this. Yeah, just a summary of a 1 or 2 page notes on that. And the last one under this paper, yeah, so question 20, which of the following data visualization charts will likely present more than 2 variables over time effectively? More than 2 variables over time effectively. So do we use the scatter, do we use the bubble chart, do we use a column, or do we use the line chart? So remember, here we need more than 2. Yeah, more than 2 variables over time effectively. And when you talk about is more than 2 variable, that is where we are using the line chart. Not the scatter, because scatter is only 2. Yeah, for scatter graph is only 2, the x and y, so that you can be able to come up with the graph. Bubble chart most of the time is again 2. Column chart, that one can take 2 or more than 2, but the one that is talking about over time, because the key thing here is over time. Remember, for the column is normally not 2-dimensional. Yeah, for column is only 1-dimensional. Only the height is what we consider, because we normally have spaces between the columns. We have spaces between the columns, and therefore it is just 1-dimensional. But when you look at the line chart, it is 2-dimensional, and that's why the x-axis and the y-axis are important. X-axis we can have the time, and y-axis we can have the values. Yeah, and I remember the one that we did, I think it was for April, that we used the line chart. That one was a time chart, because it was having 3 variables. Yeah, the time, the yield, and something else. So it was the line chart, and they are normally used whenever we are having time, whenever we analysis the movement and we are including the time factor. So for this one, the line chart is what will be used. Okay, so that is it for this particular paper. And remember, we say that we are aiming for 20 marks, and you can take minimum time. Yeah, minimum time whenever you are answering this, and you can get maximum marks. Yeah, because having gone through the theory, you'll find that they are not that hard. The theory, yeah, they're not that hard, but when you have mastered the theory, or the notes first, then you can easily be able to answer. So it is easy to get past half. 10, you can get 15, you can get 18. So it's a part that you can maximize for those 20 marks. So look at the second, yeah, because I believe still you have time. Look at the second paper for April. I had shared that for April. So we just see how far, because